Okay, we'll get started. If you don't have a handout, there's a handout back in my left, the last row on the last table there. You can pick up a handout. Our main topic today is going to be TV or movies from the internet, and I'll be presenting. My name is Tom Kreuzer. Before we get to the main topic, we'll cover a few club things there. Our next meeting after this one is October 21st, Wednesday, back here in the Baltic Room. It's Why is my PC slow? We've covered this in the past, but I'll update all the things, and we'll show you how you can check and see what's running on your PC and how to stop some of the things that are running and to clean up your hard drive and clean up your cache and make sure some of the other stuff is turned on. Also, we have, in addition to the monthly meetings, these general meetings, we do have a Macintosh SIG, and that's a bit misleading because it's more an Apple SIG. They cover everything Apple, smartphones, tablets, Macs. And that meeting is coming up on September 18th, and that's in Building 201. They usually set their agenda right before the meeting, but everybody's welcome to attend that, and if you want to get on the distribution list, you'll see in the notes that I send an email to Mike Griffin, who runs that special interest group. Officers, our president is Jim Holman, and I don't see Jim here. Linda Brown is our vice president. I don't see Linda. Paul Ebert is our membership secretary. He's off for a little bit. And in the interim there, Lowell Tools, who did our membership in the past, is currently doing it, so thank you, Lowell. Mike Griffin, as I mentioned, leads our MacSig. He's also our treasurer. Stan Miller is our secretary, and I don't see him. Andrew Petron is our communication coordinator, and myself, I'm Tom Kreuzer. I'm a director at large. Members old and new, you can pay your dues to Lowell up here. Also a reminder, if you do change your email, make sure and notify Lowell or myself so that we can update our records so that you get the notices for the meetings and the different things that we send out. If you do have suggestions for topics, you can email them or you can talk to any of the board members. If you'd like to volunteer to present on hardware or software that you're using here at work or at home, that'd be great. Or if you don't want to present, you can write a short article, meaning a sentence or two or multiple pages, and we'll publish that in our monthly eBytes newsletter. Our website, we keep past meetings, the slides and the handouts that we have, so if you miss any of them, you can go out there. We try and record all the meetings, so those are out there if they're available. We also have a deals section, and we have our monthly eBytes newsletter. And the location of the site and that is also on the emails, and it's on this handout too. Any club questions before we get to the main topic? Okay. Our main topic today is going to be Internet TV, and I'll be presenting. My name is Tom Kreuzer. There's many options, as you'll see. We'll go over all these different things there. And content, hardware, quality, and cost, they're constantly changing. And they're improving for the better because it is a relatively new area. And so the services that are available, the content, the devices that you use, they're just constantly in change and flux there. I mentioned here that there's no one solution that's going to be right for everybody. Everybody's needs and what they want to watch on the television and when they want to watch it and how they want to watch it varies, and so there isn't one box and one service that's going to give you everything that everybody should get there. It just isn't. It's a little more complicated. Today, you do have more and more households are cutting their cable. And so if you have cable or dish, chances are that's why you're here, to hear some of the options and some of the things that you can do. So very popular. This figure I saw in the, I think, one issue back in Consumer Reports. It talked about the average user, if they cut cable, can cut their costs from $75 a month for a TV to $34 a month. So certainly there's some cost savings to be had. And we'll talk in more detail about some of the connections here and stuff like this. But in general, this is kind of how things flow. You have the internet out here. You have a cable modem, whether it's from Comcast or from CenturyLink. You have a wireless modem. And then you have various devices that you have in your house, whether it's iPads, phones, games, DVDs, these special boxes for the TV, the Apple TV, Roku. You may still have your cable or satellite boxes, cameras, printers, laptops, PCs, and you're connecting them all, and in some cases connecting them also to the TV. So we'll talk about some of those options. If you want to find out what's the best fit for you, we'll be talking about some of the things that you can compare there. And we'll talk about content and quality. Then we'll talk about hardware devices that you can use. Then we'll talk about service options. And it's a matter of picking and finding the solution that's going to be right for you. We'll start out with content. Content that you can play on your TV. Well, there's thousands and thousands of movies. Some of them free, some of them through pay services. So that's very popular, what people want to watch on the TV because they want to see it in the big screen. TV shows, whether it's current TV shows or past shows from the 60s, 70s, 80s, there's historical content, but there's also current content. Videos, whether it's YouTube videos that you'd like to watch on your TV, or it could be home movies that you've taken. Certainly watching it on the big screen, again, is a nice advantage there. Digital photos, so you want to share your pictures and show people. It's certainly nice to show them on the big screen instead of, taking out your phone and saying, here's a picture that I took there. If you have it on the big screen, it's a lot easier to see and share there. Audio, because usually if you have a big screen TV, you may also have that connected to an audio system. They're great for streaming podcasts, listening to music, anything to do with audio there too within the home. Another option that you can do is video calls, like a Skype call, or that you can use, again, the big screen to see the pictures, have the video camera, and you're all set there. Also, it can be used kind of as your computer screen, so you can go out to apps like Facebook or Twitter or that to both view and update, check your mail, things like that on there, and general web browsing. So the TV can be used for all these different things in addition to just getting like a Netflix and watching movies. You potentially can do all of these things with your TV, given the right hardware and services in that. Next, we'll talk about quality. And the quality depends on the hardware and the services that you're using there. The first thing that you want to start out with, if you're going to be streaming, is you want to make sure that you have a fast internet speed. Because if you have a slow speed, you're not going to be happy with the speed that the movies play, the buffering. And if you have a really slow speed, the picture quality drops down to a lesser quality. In general, if you want to do high definition, and we'll talk a little bit about what high definition means a little later, you have to start with an internet connection of at least 5 megabits per second, and that's per user per channel. So sometimes people don't take that into account. They want to have multiple TVs in the house, and the TVs can be watching different movies at the same time. Well, that's 2 different users or 3 different users at the same time going through the internet, and you're going to need that kind of bandwidth to get good performance. The FCC, when their current definition for broadband is 25 megabits per second. And the reason they do that is because more and more people are streaming movies and video, and the households themselves are more active. So you've got multiple users. They may be playing games. They may be watching other content. You may have DVRs going. You may have different things going, which all start consuming your bandwidth there. Another thing to consider is if you have cable as opposed to DSL, cable internet service slows down during the evening because you're sharing that speed with everybody else on your subnet that's within your local area there. And so the more people that get on and the more things they're doing, there's only so much room in the pipe, and it just starts slowing down everything there. So people will say, gee, I'm getting really good speed during the day, but most people are wanting to watch movies and do things at night. Well, that's when everybody is increasing their usage. Another thing that affects the quality is the modem that you have and the Wi-Fi router, because the weakest link in any system is going to determine what speed you're going at and the quality that's going there. So from the internet, you're going to have what's called a cable modem or a DSL modem, and then you're going to have usually a wireless modem or a wireless router. And if either of these pieces is old technology or slow technology, your performance streaming to all of your different devices, including the TV, is going to be affected there. So what I'm saying here is, at a minimum for your Wi-Fi, make sure that it supports 802.11n, which is a transmission standard. And if you're buying a new one, you want to buy it for 802.11ac. The newer the standard, the faster, the more secure, the less interference from other things in the house, the greater the range, things like that. Also, within these standards, there's things called dual band support. So like dual band just doubles your speed. It means it uses 2 channels simultaneously. So if your channel was, let's say you were getting 20 megabits per second, you'd be getting 40 megabits per second with dual band. So it'll increase your speed, but you only get the benefit of the dual band if your router supports dual band and the devices that you're connecting to it support dual band. And I do recommend, if possible, from your cable modem, go directly to your TV. A wired connection will always provide you with the highest speed and best reliability in terms of retransmits and things like that. Some of the devices actually don't even have a wired connection, so that's not an option, but many of the higher-end devices support either a Wi-Fi connection or a wired connection. I recommend that you buy your own modem and Wi-Fi devices, because typically you can get them for less than $100, and that avoids paying monthly rental fees that you'd be paying to the cable company or to the DSL company. And I recommend buying a separate modem and Wi-Fi router, just because these Wi-Fi standards tend to change, and if possible, you'll want to upgrade your Wi-Fi router maybe every year to 2 years, get a new one that's better, faster, and more secure. And that way you aren't spending money on the modem, which you may go 5 years, 10 years before needing to upgrade that. And the whole topic on home networking, we did cover back last year in April of 2014. So if you want more information on that, go and look up that out on the website. You can get the slides and the recording there. Okay, another thing to consider is frame rate. The content that you're streaming from the internet, whether it's from Netflix or various providers, has to be saved at a certain frame rate, 24 frames per second, 30, 60. This is progressive scan. This is interlaced. And each of these, the more frames per second, and that the higher the quality, the less blur in the picture, things like that you get. So if you really want the highest quality in that, you kind of have to shop around to find the best devices that support it and the best services that provide content at that high quality. These are some of the common video connections that you'll see on the back of a TV today. And we'll start with the VGA, and the VGA is, this plug, 13 pins that goes in there. Next, you have a component, or RGB, that has 3 separate RCA plugs for the different component colors there. Then you have S-Video, which is kind of this is a really old standard. Then this became kind of a standard. The video composite, this is a really old standard that isn't used much. And this is the one that most people use today, the HDMI. The HDMI supports high definition HD TV, and the single cord supports both the video and the audio being sent to the TV. So this is the way most of your devices are going to connect in and give you the highest quality. Aspect ratio. Aspect ratio, the old TVs that we used to have used an aspect ratio that was 4:3, 4 going across, 3 going down, and that's the old standard. The new high definition standard is 16:9, and what that means is that there's 33% more vertical space in a 16:9 than in a 4:3. So that's where if you're watching older movies or TV stations, you'll get the letterboxing. Either they kind of expand things out or put black around the edges. There's different ways that movies have been adjusted to play on some of the older screens, but ideally you have a TV and your equipment and your content is all in this 16:9 format. Okay. Another thing affecting is the quality is the resolution and the audio capability. Again, the old standard for old TVs used to be what's called 480i, and you just have mono sound. So you didn't have stereo, just a single channel sound, not that good. Then they came up with ED-TV, which increases the pixels in that. So ED-TV could go up to 720p, and that supported audio with Dolby 5.1. And if you're not familiar with Dolby, Dolby just refers to, in this case, 5 channels. One of them's a bass. So in a typical configuration, you have 2 up front speakers, 2 speakers in back, and 1 speaker for the bass right in the middle pointing towards you. That's where you get your 5 speakers. The new standard for audio is 7.1. 7.1 is 7 speakers, more surround sound. That's where you get the surround sound of 3 on this side, 3 on this side, and then 1 for bass in the middle there to give you the boom boom or the rumble there. And that's known as the HD TV, and that usually you're talking about 1080p or 1080, and so you can see quality-wise you're getting a lot better definition, and on the larger screens that's what you need to get the fine definition. There are other resolutions out there, and you have 3D. 3D in some cases is the TV attempts to do some things. In other cases, it's goggles you wear to give you that 3D effect. There's also another one out there called 4K. So this is kind of this is 1K. Well, there's 4K out there, new TVs that are sold, but there's very little content that's available either in the 3D or in the 4K, and at this point it's more a novelty than it is anywhere. And if you do get it, you'd be spending extra money for it and really not seeing much of a benefit there. Yes?
That's why the other day they said that
a handful of movies. All their content is not 4K, and so yes, you can pay for 4K, and your TV may support it, but the content that you're getting just isn't out there. And if I take a 50-inch TV screen and put 1K and 4K up on there, most users aren't going to notice the difference. Now, if I have a 100-inch TV and put a 1K and a 4K, then you'll start noticing some stuff. But the things that don't give you the sharpness are things like the frame rate and some of these other things, which they haven't changed in 4K. So it's unclear if 4K will ever become a standard. Like I say, it's probably more of a novelty at this point. The TV stations definitely aren't going to broadcast in 4K because they just spent millions and millions of dollars to get to 1K. So chances are they wouldn't change until there's an exponential leap to maybe 10 times better or something like that. Well, and most of the movies and stuff like that, see, the movies were originally shot in film, so a good company at any time when there is a change in standards will go back and recapture using the original film, because the original film is the best that you're ever going to get. So if the original film was shot at 24 frames per second, doing something at 60 frames per second isn't going to help. There's no way that it's going to improve. However, if you're going from 1K to 4K on film, that just means that, yes, it is able to capture more pixels and be a better picture there. So there's some things that it does, but like I say, at this time I wouldn't pay anything extra for it. We'll have to see what comes down the pike there. They've even got, I think Samsung has a 4K smartphone, which is ridiculous because your screen is so small that the pixels, you cannot tell the difference between that and a smaller screen. It's just a gimmick for somebody to be able to say, oh, is your phone 4K? Mine's 4K. Well, why would I want to stream 4K on here and eat up my data? If you have a data plan, you'd eat up your data plan 4 times, 10 times faster, and you wouldn't even be able to tell the difference. Yes?
Where 4K comes into play is if you're doing pictures, you're editing or video editing on your desktop or your laptop. That's when 4K comes into play. The rest of the concept, you're paying for something that you're not paying for.
Yeah.
That's why 3D TVs are very rapidly dropping off the marketplace. There's no marketplace.
Apparently, the something that Samsung records film or video
If you have on your desktop or your laptop computer that has a 4K monitor, if you go to the new iMac that's got the 5K monitor, it'll look beautiful. You shoot pictures, they look beautiful in 4K or 5K monitor. Put them on your TV, you're not going to tell them.
Yeah, so it all boils down to, kind of the weakest link in the whole system and whether there's content or things like that out there. Any other questions? Okay. Next, we'll talk about hardware devices. So what can you use to do this? Well, you can buy TVs that come with internet capabilities. So some of the TVs have built-in support for some of the services. So they'll support like Netflix or HuLu, or they'll have built-in support for a few of the services. Only a few of them support standard web browsing. So for you to go out and run an app on there or to go out to a website, very few of them support it. And again, very few support a keyboard or any type of device to navigate around. So they aren't real user-friendly at this point. And if somebody said, here's TV A that supports the internet and here's TV B that supports the internet, I wouldn't give it any more points to select the one that supports the internet than the other one if I'm buying a new TV.
We got a Sony smart TV. Rather would have bought just regular TV and coupled it with an Apple, especially the new Apple. It makes it interesting.
Oh, right.
Or our neighbor has a Samsung smart TV, almost in use. So it's just matters.
Yes, in terms of technology, the curve to create a new TV and to merge these technologies, you have a lag. So you're looking at a lag of technology in these new TVs that's probably 2 years, 3 years old. So will they get better? They'll get better, but because the technology of this whole area is changing so fast, they've got all kinds of problems. And like I say, I wouldn't buy a TV just because it has that in there. So I wouldn't pay any extra there for it. Okay. The other thing is like you mentioned, you can take your Apple or your PC and connect it to the TV, and either that's done through the video or many of the machines now do have HDMI. Or like I'm using here, you have the connector there. This is I forgot what the standard is, but it just goes from the PC standard or the Mac standard to HDMI. So it ends up going through HDMI in the end there. But you can connect a PC, and essentially what you've got then is that much larger screen to deal with, and those used to be called media center PCs, so you could get them specifically configured for the TV functionality. So they'd have larger hard drives, they'd have a video recorder, a DVR for recording, they'd have a channel changer to get over-the-air broadcasts, usually come with a card in the PC for receiving over-the-air signals there. Another option is to connect to your TV, or that is something called a sling box. I don't know, does anyone have a sling box? Or okay, we've got one there. Sling box enables you to connect that to your TV, and then from your mobile device, whether it's my phone or a tablet, I could be anywhere in the world watching content that was coming into my house back there. So if I wanted to watch the Vikings game and I'm over in Japan, I could get on my smartphone and watch the Vikings game in the local broadcast here, going through this box here. So it's a way to take the content and expose it to other devices there. It doesn't supply the content, so you still have to have Comcast or a Dish or Netflix or any of these things. You still have to have content from somewhere. This is just a device to let you stream it out to other devices that you have. TiVo is another player in this arena. You buy the device, you pay a monthly fee, and it acts as a digital video recorder that can record content and certain things. They're not a digital provider or a content provider. They're just a device to enable you to record and to select shows and things like that. Yes?
Are there other restrictions that you don't see in any other countries or not many DVRs available?
DVRs, the DVRs are what people want to do. I mean, most people used to have the VCRs and they'd record everything, and you'd have that backlog of tapes and stuff like that. And then the DVRs came along and used the hard drive, and that's so much better because you can go fast forward faster. You don't have to go from the beginning of the tape to the end of the tape. That all improved. The thing that kind of passed that whole industry by is video on demand. Why do I have to record something if I can go out to HuLu at any time and pull up any TV show? So I wouldn't have had to record Dancing with the Stars last night. I just go out there whenever I want and watch Dancing with the Stars. So the need for a DVR is going down because if it's available on demand from these different services, you don't need to record. We'll take a roll for it.
My wife likes to watch soap opera during the day, and so she records it. And we looked into TiVo or something like that, but it's only on CBS, whatever.
CBS Now.
Yeah. So, which means you'd have to pay $8 a month.
We'll talk.
We didn't do it.
So we'll talk about some of the services, and some of the services that you buy, you can't fast forward past commercials. So if you're watching stuff, if it's your own DVR or you recorded something, certainly you have a little more control there. But for the most part, DVRs are kind of a dying breed because if I can go out and watch it when I want, that usually satisfies it. Well, first we'll did you have a question?
What I noticed on Comcast is their on-demand stuff. It has a time frame before it appears out there, too.
Yes, there's time frames on both when the stuff appears on there, which is usually after it first airs, the day after. Well, it depends. Like HBO, it's the next day. If it's Discovery Channel or stuff like that, it's usually the next day after it airs. It's not that first day that it airs. It's usually the next day after it airs. But you're right. Most of them do have an expiration, too. So if I go out to Discovery and I want to watch Deadliest Catch, in this case, Comcast has limited availability. They may only have the last 4 episodes. Whereas HuLu may have the last 10 seasons out there. So who you buy your content from is going to determine how fast, how far back you can go, things like that. Yes?
So TiVo is compatible with
TiVo is compatible. Again, do you really need TiVo if you have Comcast? Because if you have a Comcast and you have a DVR, Comcast does have a DVR. You pay additional money per month. That lets you record, and that series recording. You could, yes. Yes, and what the TiVo will do is TiVo has little devices that'll automatically change your cable box and stuff like that. So if you say I want to record from this channel, or you go to the TV guide and you say you want to watch this, and that, TiVo will automatically change the channel or do stuff there.
So you can plug the cable.
No, I'm not sure on St. Paul's version of Comcast. Some cable systems, what you have to do is you have to go to your cable company and you have to request a cable card. This cable card is an encrypted card that identifies the services that you have available, which then means that the TiVo device can change to those channels and get the unencrypted channels and be able to record. Right. Yeah, so the cable coming out of the wall plugs directly in. If you don't have that situation, what you do is the cable out of the wall goes to the Comcast box that changes the channels. Then the cable out of there goes to TiVo, and then from TiVo it goes to the TV. So there's different ways.
You need a DVR then.
Yes.
Assuming they have an out, in and out.
Correct. The only thing you have to do there is you have to make sure that you can control then changing the channel on the Comcast, because if you don't, you're limited to whatever channel it's currently on. Right. Yeah.
I've got people, and you don't use Comcast box. You go right into the people, use a cable card.
Okay.
I've also taken to Florida. There is a different system. There you have to have a separate box. Different. Digital up here is still analog down there.
Yeah, that's why it varies a little.
Yeah. However, Xfinity now has a new system, and it doesn't work. So they want to upgrade you, but can't use that anymore. Yeah, use that. So it's got to show.
Yeah, and
It all varies by what you buy from Comcast. We have two channels that record while you're watching a third, or with Xfinity, or I watching another one.
or go dish and get the hopper, and you can record 21 channels. Yeah, so there are options. You just have to check and see what's available there, and that TiVo is becoming less popular because, again, if you can go out to some of these other services at any time from any device and immediately get your show, the need for that DVR functionality gets less and less. Yes.
Anybody have for CenturyLink cable?
Well, all they're doing in CenturyLink is they're starting to run fiber optics. The fiber there is just to the junction point. Now that's going to increase your speed, but it doesn't add any functionality. It just
referring to Prism,
well, CenturyLink will partner up with DirecTV and depends on the areas that it'll.
There are some areas that are running Prism now, which is direct cable replacement.
Right. And as far as I know, that isn't in the Twin Cities. Okay.
It's coming to White Bear, I know, by December.
And that's where you have to kind of keep your eyes and ears open for where content is available, because Prism is just like any other of these services that we'll talk about, and how much you pay and the quality and when shows show up there, they're all different, and you can't, it's not apples to apples kind of thing there. Okay, so TiVo, again, it's kind of phasing out. Hardware devices, you can use your phones and smartphones, and cast, and casting is taking content or what you're watching here and putting it up on the TV. And so if you use a device like Chromecast or Apple TV, actually I have a Chromecast, I can take my pictures from here, and with just one swipe of the button, they show up on my TV in the large screen. I move my pictures, I zoom in, I can, look and do things there. YouTube or Netflix, I bring up Netflix on here. I can do a voice search of finding my Netflix movie. find my Netflix movie, click on it, and cast it to the TV, and then it starts showing on the TV. Then I can use this to fast forward and go back. So there's different things that you can do with smartphones and tablets, and it's also tied in with the device that you have, whether it supports casting or how it does things. Yes?
Back to the smart TV, I think the one interesting piece about that is that it's got built-in Wi-Fi functions of the media service that enables that happening without the intermediate device, except it's a little bit late. But that's one thing that I might be good.
It depends. I mean, I use my single Wi-Fi network in the house, and that covers all rooms, all areas.
So this is like direct from your device to the TV.
Well, when I choose a Netflix or I choose a YouTube video on here, it's not physically taking the screen off of here and sending that over my Wi-Fi to my TV. What it did is it said, here's the URL, the address of that content. It sends that URL to the TV. The TV brings it up. So if my screen is this size, obviously on my TV I get the size of my TV. I don't get the size and the quality of this screen. Doesn't matter what this screen is, I get the highest quality of the device that I'm casting it to. And if you use Chromecast lets you go into your browser, any of your browsers, and you can cast that up onto your TV screen. So there's different capabilities and that for these different devices. But you're right, check and see what you're doing or what you're trying to connect and things like that. Okay? Also, most of the new DVD players all come, the Blu-ray players anyway, come with certain services like their Netflix where they can stream the video from Netflix, and usually a couple of other services also, but not as many as you'll see on some of these others. Also, video game boxes, if you have a Xbox or a PlayStation or a Nintendo, they also come in with internet connections and usually support some of these services also. So these are devices that you could use to connect to your TV. They're not what I recommend for TV content. What I recommend for TV content, we'll talk about next here. These are set-top boxes, so it's a little box or a stick or that you connect into your TV. This is the number one. The number one seller is the Roku. Roku makes 4 different models ranging from $49 to $99. As I mentioned, they are number one, and they're number one because they support the most services and capabilities there. The only thing that they don't support is they do not support anything from iTunes. So that would be the only caveat on, are you totally committed to Apple and iTunes, then this wouldn't be the machine for you. But they make 4 different models. They start out with a little streaming stick, and these sticks, if you haven't seen them, are about the size of this. They're very small, connect into the HDMI port, connect by Wi-Fi to your network, and they'll do all the functionality. Over the years, they've had different models, and they continue to sell these old models. So if somebody says they're going to sell you a Roku, don't just buy it. You want to get a Roku 3, which is the most current one. It also costs the most, but it has the most capability. And so over the years, this only works for standard TV, doesn't work for high-definition TV. So if somebody sells you one of these, you're living in technology that's 5 years old or 7 years old. Roku 2 is a little better, but again, it doesn't have all the features and functions. Roku 3 is the latest and the greatest, and I believe they're coming out with a new one now. again shortly, so there'll be a Roku 4. Roku 3 supports voice, so there's a little mic on the remote control. You can talk into it. Find me all the James Bond movies, and it'll find you the James Bond movies. So instead of, if you've ever used the devices where you have to pull up a keyboard and go over and push enter and then go back and James, J-A-M, oh no, I misspelled it, go back, delete this, go back. You don't want to be using an interface like that if you don't have to. So the Roku's, yes?
So you said the best system would be hardwired, so this would not be hardwired.
Roku 3 does have a Ethernet connection. The streaming stick here does not. If you bought that doesn't have as many capabilities and features as you find in the Roku 3, and you are limited to a Wi-Fi connection there. So that's why they have different models, different price points.
What does the set-top box do again?
This is what you're going to interface with to purchase your services, to select your to find a movie, to play a movie, to just access your content that you're going to want to.
So it helps you search on demand with Comcast faster or Netflix faster or...
Yeah, so in addition to Netflix, Roku here will support probably 200 other services. So if you want the Cat Lovers Guild channel, you could get the Cat Lover Guild channel. Whereas on many of the other devices, you would not be able to get that. So there's differences in the services that you can have, which services are supported by the box, how easy it is to use the box, to navigate, to select, to control. That's what you're paying for. The quality, the content, the speed that it can deliver, that's what you're paying for. Netflix and some of the providers have servers around the country in strategic locations, so everybody isn't getting serviced out of one location, and so their delay is slow and stuff like that. So there's...
You still have to have an account.
Yes. Buying a Roku gets you nothing, other than there are of like 200 services on Roku, probably 70 to 80 of them are free. So you can, and there's games out there, and right. So there's some stuff is out there free, others you pay for in that. Yeah.
Another fine point is each of these devices create its own like our Blu-ray player is very primitive. But the Apple TV is very sophisticated. You know, it varies.
Yeah.
Device, each program with Netflix, how they're going to interface.
Yeah, so even though you're getting the same service, the speed of which you can find something and search, how nice it looks. Since I use a Chromecast, right now I have a Chromecast, I use the Netflix app on here, and so I have all the capabilities of the Netflix app on here in terms of voice search and scrolling and finding and things like that. So I don't have to use a TV remote or, you know, over to the side, up, down, sideways, hit enter, you know, kind of a thing. So it depends on the devices that you're using, how hard or how easy. Okay? The second most popular device out there is the Chromecast. And like I mentioned, I personally have one of these, and I bought it more as a novelty because I did want to show my pictures and videos on the TV. I didn't buy it necessarily for Netflix or things like that. I wanted to cast my screen onto the bigger screen and share pictures and stuff like that. Chromecast fits in the palm of your hand, so it is literally this big. You know, just a little thing there. Plugs into the HDMI port. There is no remote. There's no remote whatsoever with this. The remote that you use is your tablet or your smartphone. So you tell your smartphone, this is the Chrome device, and then all the apps that you use and things that you do, you can press one button and have it showing up on the TV then. And you can use your PC, tablet, smartphone to stream the content. The number 3 most popular device out there is the Amazon Fire, and the Amazon Fire has both a stick, which is like the Chromecast or the Roku stick there, and then they also have a bigger box and that sells for $99. So the stick is $39 and the big is $99. And I mentioned here, this option is best for people if you subscribe to the Amazon Prime Video. Do we have anybody that currently is using? Okay, so we have a few there. So if on Amazon you're paying $99 a year for the express shipping, 2-day shipping, you get the Amazon Prime Video, which is like a Netflix, for free. So that would be one reason to maybe look into this device and use this device to stream. This current model here, I do not believe you can currently buy it because they are coming out with a new model. This model did have voice search capabilities. I'm not sure I haven't seen what the new one's going to have in there, but it's supposed to be out soon. Again, the interfaces vary from device to device, how easy or how hard it is. It's also a case of if that's the only service that you're using, then you can compare. But frequently you'll see when I talk about services, the average user is going to be using 2 to 4 to 6 services. So you're using more than one service. It depends on that whole experience. How is it easy to switch? How is it easy to search? How is it easy to find some of these things? So you have all that going on. Okay, the fourth seller is the Apple TV. That price varies from $69 to $199. The $69 is for the old model because they just came out last week, September 9th. They announced new models. The new models do support voice search, Siri voice support. The new models also support some games. So there's an accelerometer in here, kind of like the Wii and some of those. It supports app supports, and they sell for, like I said, there's 2 different models, 64 gig, I think, for $149, or 32 for $149, and 64 for $199. The only people I'd recommend it for is people that are totally into Apple. If you're not into Apple products and that, certainly, like I said, I'd buy a Roku and I'd get with that. It does work with iTunes, but doesn't work with Amazon Prime. So, but it does work very well with the iPhone, the iPad, and the Mac for streaming and that. There are hundreds of other devices that you can hook up in that. I don't recommend any of those. Stick with one of the top 4 there because they do vary in terms of usability, in terms of the services that they support, and it's just a case of I wouldn't spend time or money on some of these other devices there. But you will see them around. You will see them in the discount bins at stores. Here I can get the streaming player for $20 or $19.95. Well, again, you're buying old technology, and chances are it doesn't connect to the services that you want. Okay, now we'll talk about service options. Service options, the hardware devices all have limits on what options they support. So before you buy your hardware, make sure you figure out what you want to actually play. And so the two have to go hand in hand. You can't just buy your hardware and then expect that you're going to be able to get all the different services because they may not be available on the device that you want. So this is saying before you buy the hardware, check and make sure and see what it supports. These devices will let you, or these services let you watch what you want when you want. And so that's kind of some of the, since a lot of the services are not live services, you're able to pick it up the next day, a week from now, a year from now, whenever you can go back and watch stuff. Some of them vary with no ads. So let's say it was a recording last night of Dancing with the Stars. Some of the recordings will have all of the commercials in and won't let you fast forward past them. Others will take the commercials out and make those available. So if you're looking for a certain one, you're going to have to check out the proper services to see what's available. Some of them vary by the show being available the next day to up to 6 months later, and that's true of the movies and the TV episodes. So understand what you're getting and when you're getting it there. Like I mentioned, most users are going to have to subscribe to multiple services to get what they want. You aren't going to find everything in one service there, because if you want ESPN Sports, that's in one service. You aren't going to find all the movies also available in that service. So if you like movies and sports, that's where you're going to have to start buying and paying for multiple things. Some of your service options for live TV, well, the best option for live TV, the over-the-air broadcast there, is you're going to have a good antenna, which can run you anywhere from $20 to $100 to get it from the live TV. And there you'll get your local and network news, live sports, primetime lineups, and more. And this option, if you do want a DVR, that's where you'd have to buy a separate DVR, a TiVo or a Media PC or numerous other options to do the recording there. Some of it's trial and error. The best antennas would be an external antenna almost for every house, because if you have an internal antenna, frequently you get one or two stations good, and you have to turn it to get the others the best. Or digital is better. Either you get a signal or you don't get a signal. But still, to get the strongest signal so it doesn't fade in or out or have an issue there is to have an external antenna up on the roof. And if you've got that, for most people, in the 7-county area here, you're going to get good clear pictures in high definition there. It's something to look at. The only problem with that is I wouldn't put a whole lot of faith in that, because so much depends on what's inside your house. What kind of walls do you have? Do you have plaster walls? Do you have other interference within the house? Yeah. So there's other variables that they can't show on some of these maps. So some of it's trial and error. Yeah. But local over the air, you can usually for not too much of a cost, you can put up that external antenna or that and get a really good signal there. Right. Yeah. And when he says compressing the signal, some of them, if you've got Comcast or Dish and you notice kind of a breakup or stuff like that, that's the compression and decompression didn't quite work right. Another option that you see some people who don't want to stick up the antenna but still want to get those local channels and things like that, is they'll get the lower level of Comcast. And Comcast doesn't advertise this, but there's things called limited basic cable and expanded basic cable. And the limited basic cable is $20 a month. It's not completely cord cutting, but you're cutting your cord shaving, you're cutting your major bill, and you'd have all your local channels with the quality that Comcast delivers for those local channels. There is an option. This is not the Sling box. This is Sling TV. This is a relatively new option. For $20 a month, you get about 20 live channels, and they're channels like A&E, AMC, Disney, ESPN, Food Network, TBS, Home and Garden, and quite a few more. And these are live broadcasts. And then they also have other packages for sports packs and some other things there. Doesn't have local channels, so you can't get local channels. There is no DVR, so you can't go back the next day and say, I want to watch Dancing with the Stars. Well, Dancing with the Stars wouldn't have been on here, but Deadliest Catch. Let's say Deadliest Catch, I couldn't go out to here and watch. Could have watched Deadliest Catch live when it was on Discovery, but I can't watch it after the fact on this station. No DVR. While you're watching it, you do have some limited capability to pause it, to rewind, to fast forward, but there's no mechanism to save it or anything like that. CBS All Access, we mentioned CBS kind of went off on its own. If you want to get their stuff live in that, you can pay $6 a month just for the CBS. And it has no DVR and also no NFL games. So if CBS has the Vikings game on Sunday, it's not available on this channel. Because obviously the NFL has its own channels that it's willing to sell you for its fee and getting that. And as I mentioned, Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, there's all kinds of options. Most of them run about $11 a month. And they'll usually the local games are blacked out. So if you're looking for live stuff, that's where you have to look at some of these other options to do live broadcasts there. Some of the options for not live TV, if you have a PC or a smartphone or stuff like that, you can go out to the CBS, NBC, ABC, or Fox website, and you can usually watch for free episodes of the current prime and some of the old ones. They usually have some commercials in there, and they may have some classics also available. But you can go out to the website and watch most of that. We mentioned Amazon Prime. If you are a Prime member, you're paying $99 a year for the Prime delivery, the 2-day delivery. They will have some original series. They also have some of the older HBO series, and then a ton of movies, most all of the movies there. No current episodes of programs from other channels. So Dancing with the Stars wouldn't be out there. And there's a lag before they get the blockbuster movies. You also get music streaming and the free 2-day shipping on Amazon orders. Netflix, that's the most popular one for movies. They have different tiers that you buy into. $7.99 a month will get you standard definition TV. $8.99 gets you high definition, and you can watch it on 2 devices or 2 screens. So I could watch it simultaneously on my phone and on my TV, or if I wanted to pair up with my neighbor, we each pay $4.50. He can watch one channel on his TV, and I can watch one channel on my TV. $12 gets you up to 4 screens, 4 different things going on at the same time. You have movies, original series, old episodes. You don't have current episodes of programs from other channels. So Dancing with the Stars isn't going to be available out there. And there's a lag before getting the blockbuster. Hulu is probably the biggest, the most used service out there. It costs $8 for limited commercials and $12 for no commercials. This has most of the shows are going to be available a day after they're shown on TV. This includes ABC, Fox, NBC, CBS, TBS, Discovery, TLC, USA, Nickelodeon, Independent, and probably 100 or more are available. That's why it's so popular. Is you can watch it the next day, and you can watch it on any of your devices, whether it's a TV or a smartphone or that. You can get caught up with episodes that way. Doesn't have movies. It's just strictly TV series, and whether it's new ones or old ones there. A new one, a relatively newcomer that just started last year and now is becoming available on some of the different devices is HBO Now. For $15, you can get access to the current HBO libraries, and that's the original movies, documentaries, and sports. They started out earlier this year just available on the Apple TV, but now you're seeing it available on a number of devices, whether it's smartphones and integrated in with Roku and some of the other systems there. Showtime's another one that costs $11 per month. If you have Hulu, you can get it for $9 a month. And again, it's movies. If you like the movies that are shown on Showtime, it's certainly an option for you. Pay-per-view, and by this I mean you're not paying a monthly subscription, but you can go out at any time and watch a current movie or an old movie. You have services like Apple iTunes. So there you could go out, find a movie, and watch it. Prices vary anywhere from 99 cents or $2.99 or $3.99 per show that you're watching there. There's Blockbuster On Demand. This isn't the Blockbuster video store. It's a different service, but they again have movies, and you can rent the movies for $2.99 to $3.99. Now, most people don't go this route. They'll go with a Netflix to watch their movies. However, these, if you want to watch the movie as soon as it becomes available on DVD, you'll have to go to a service like this. They don't become available on Netflix the minute they hit the DVD. So like Fast and Furious just came out, and you'll see them advertising it. Well, the only place you can get it is services like this or buying the DVD, or a red box or stuff like that. After about 3 months or 4 months, then you'll see it on a Netflix and stuff like that. So that's that lag of when stuff is available. Content isn't available all at the same time on all devices. Cinema Now, same type of deal, all kinds of movies in that, different price structure. Vudu, similar deal, all kinds of titles. There are a lot of free things. I mentioned there's all these different free services too. So there's like TV Land, free episodes of classic shows, Gunsmoke, Andy Griffin. Now the quality may not be high definition, but price, and you can go through these different services, and depending on what you're interested in, see if you want it or not. It's almost like apps for your phone or tablet. There's a lot of free stuff out there. There's also a lot of stuff that you pay 99 cents or $2.99. Check out, see what the quality is, see if it works for you. Free movies, there's a wealth of video contact. You just have to search around and poke around to find it. Okay, what are my needs? Personally, my needs, currently I'm using Comcast for my TV and my internet, and I do have a Chromecast. The reason I haven't switched to some of these other options is the maximum speed that I can get from CenturyLink is 3 megabytes per second with their old wiring. I have to wait till the fiber optics get pulled, then I'll be able to upgrade or get the faster speed there. So just because you want it, you have to wait till it's available in your area there. Yes. Unplug your modem and plug it back in, and you should see roughly a 50% increase in speed, both upload and download, with no additional cost. However, you're paying probably close to $60 for that speed, the average speed. If you're there, you're probably paying about $50 to $60 already. So you paid for it.
You're getting a fraction of the paying for now one.
But to take advantage of it, you do have to unplug your modem, your cable modem, and let it sit for about a minute, and then plug it back in, and then that will reconnect to the service, and you should get the faster speed there.
If the modem's got battery backup, you also have to unplug the battery, or use the reset button or something like that.
No, you don't want to do that. The reason is that usually the unplugging and plugging will do it. It's just reestablishing a connection from your point to your point here. It's not changing settings in the modem itself. So there should be no need to reset or anything there. The unplugging and plugging in just reestablishes your connection between the Comcast server and your device.
But if you don't do something, the power has never been interrupted. Just unplugging doesn't do anything because of
yes, it does. It reestablishes that connection. If you're familiar with dynamic naming assignments and that within the subnet and that, the minute you unplug there, it's constantly pinging to see whether you're there, and you're not there, it disconnects you. When you turn it back,
you are there because your battery is providing the backup power to that modem.
Oh, if you have a battery backup, yeah, excuse me, I didn't. None of the modems that I've seen that Comcast puts in has a battery backup. So unplugging it, you're unplugging it, whether it's from the battery backup or from the telephone line, that disconnects you and then it'll reestablish.
If your modem has a battery backup, you've got to disconnect that and then unplug it.
Yeah, you can figure. I mean, you're just taking the modem, and the modem usually is plugged into the battery backup. Unplug it there. It's not using the battery backup, and it still maintains its whole configuration though, because that isn't stored in needing a connection, needing electricity. Getting back here. What I plan on doing when it becomes available is I would get the Century, either the 20 or 30 megabyte service, which is going to be about $30 to $40 a month for that service. That service would be available at a locked-in rate for 12 months. At that time, it almost doubles. But if you call them and complain, you can get the price back down to the regular. It kind of works the same deal as cable. I'd probably get a Roku. I'm debating a DVR, whether I'll want a DVR or stuff like that. So I'll have to see what I do there. But I would probably get HuLu, $12 a month, Netflix, $9 a month, HBO Now, $15 a month, Sling TV, and then have my local over the air. So that would cost me roughly $56 a month for those services. But there's an example of, if you want to get what you want, you're going to have to purchase multiple services and use multiple services because each one has its own thing that it's providing there. I like ESPN. The only place I'm going to get ESPN is by paying $20 a month to get this. So you have to figure out what you want, and then you'll come up with it. Questions? Yes.
So what type of DVR would you use? So here's my situation is sometimes you see like music award shows or performers on a late night show. Those things often disappear after a while on the internet. play them, I like to record them, safe like this.
Yeah, the whole recording, I know people that have DVRs to their hard drive, and they attempt to keep kind of everything, and then they run out of space. Because, it's like the old VHS tapes. Everyone was going to keep them forever, and you kind of, have that. It never ends up. So usually if you're looking for content, it's hard not to find that content somewhere on the internet, on YouTube, on somewhere. But if I was to look there, that's where I may just take an old PC and turn it into a DVR, and there's ways to do that that aren't that expensive. But otherwise, your options, you get into the TiVos, you get into the some of the other competitors of TiVo there are out there for $200, $300, $400. You can get a device. Another option is to buy a DVD recorder and keep your content on discs that way. Now that's more inconvenient to set things up and to set times, but it depends again on maybe how many shows you're trying to record or what you're trying to do. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you for coming, and the next one is October on tuning your PC.